Hello and welcome to episode 26 of the Non-League Heroes podcast with your hosts for this evening, myself, Dan Walkley and Dean Haynes.
How you doing, mate? You good?
I'm all right, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. Was it 2 weeks now with no football?
Yeah, mate. It seems like months.
Crazy.
Yeah.
To think that the last thing we did was the non-league finals day, mate. It's
what was that? That was 2 weeks today, wasn't it? Or,
yeah,
2 weeks.
yesterday.
Weeks
Mate, get me back there now, eh?
Yeah. Well, obviously you've got the National League playoff there on the 1st of June. So I mean, let's get on it. But there's been a lot of controversy about that, hasn't there, around the tickets and the train closures and stuff like that. So yeah, people who don't know, obviously Oldham against Southend, which are probably two of the biggest supported clubs in the National League, in the playoff final on June the 1st. But because of engineering works and I think Wembley Park Station's actually closed. So the main one at the end of Wembley Way. So they've reduced, I think it was, I don't know if it was Brent Council or someone reduced the number of tickets that was allowed.
Right.
So there's been a lot of controversy about that. Obviously, I'm just trying to look for the article now, but yeah, a lot of controversy about ticket allocations. So I think today on Monday 26th, so when we're recording, they have actually increased the allocation, but it's still not full allocation.
Yeah.
So they here we go. So let me just so yeah, today they've been given an additional 2,722 tickets. So they were both only handed 17,500. Obviously at Wembley, that's not a lot, is it? No. That's not going to feel much. So what's that? 35,000. So yeah, that was due to the underground and the engineering work. So hopefully that's getting resolved now, because there obviously is alternative ways to get to Wembley. So yeah, hopefully that gets sorted and they get the tickets they need, because like I said, Southend and Oldham are two very, very well supported sides in the National League.
Well, surely if the clubs could maybe put on some transport coaches, it's one of the, do you know what I mean? I know some do it for the away games. Maybe if there's anyone
I don't think it's that. I think it's the local councils and the police, just because of the infrastructure around it, which is obviously a bit of a nightmare on playoff final day.
Right. Well, when we went 2 weeks ago, I had issues with the trains as well, so I can feel the pain for the train issues. But yeah,
absolutely. But we did have some football as well this weekend. So the Combined Counties Premier South saga, all the controversies finally ended, but there was no short of drama in the games, obviously with Jersey Bulls and Fleet Town being the early kickoff. So Jersey won 1-0 up. Fleet scored with 2 minutes to go, with the stream cutting out for everyone on the mainland who was watching it. So that was sort of the equaliser. But yeah, then went to penalties. Fleet missed 3 out of 3. And obviously Jersey scored there. So Jersey will host the final. And it's actually against Cobham. So Cobham went to Red Hill again. That went to a penalty shootout. So nothing could kind of separate those two down at Kilnbrow. But Cobham actually come through that as penalty winners, which was a bit of a surprise, because obviously the whole controversy around Red Hill being champions, being investigated, but not being champions. They kind of went all through that for the last month and a half, and then got put out on penalties at home. So yeah, far from ideal.
I was going to say, worst way to end it, really, wasn't it? Like, you think you're champions, you think you're up, and then get done on penalties, which is the cruelest way to lose, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Cobham were a very good side. People wrote them off because of obviously how far ahead Jersey and Red Hill finished, but they got some good players. And by the time this episode comes out, obviously the final will be done because it is being played on Wednesday evening, which has raised a few eyebrows. But that was agreed between the clubs before the playoffs started, so it's nothing to do with the league. I think it was driven by Cobham's actual availability of players. For the weekend. So yeah, that'll be done by the time we obviously or list club live, but I think Cobham got a great chance on the 3G. They play on 3G anyway, and the way they knock the ball around, I can see them causing Jersey issues. They've not beaten, Jersey haven't beaten Cobham this season either. So probably one of the only clubs other than Redhill that they haven't beaten all season. So it's going to be well worth the £10 streaming service for sure. Let's just hope it stays up this time. But yeah, like I said, we'll know once the recording comes out. We'll know who has promotion to Step 4, and finally, the Combined County South saga will be done.
Well, hopefully, because it's been a long time coming, hasn't it? Really, mate.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of exciting for the first couple of weeks, but then it just dragged on far too long.
Definitely, mate.
Because it's cost clubs. Obviously, you've got extra training to put on, and then the short turnaround on travel time. I know Jersey have paid well over the odds for flights for Fleet to go out there last week, and now obviously the final as well was at such short notice. So yes, it's tough. It's tough on Jersey as well, obviously financially, because the agreement is that they pay for the players and the management staff to go over there.
I'd say I've got more players coming over.
Yeah, so the actual agreement in the league beforehand is, I want to say 24 or 26 players and management at a maximum. But the flights are at a premium, only a few days away.
Yeah, definitely, mate. It's
the cost has gone up. So hopefully they take a fair bit in revenue. I know people are going to say they started all of this issue, but they're the ones that fronted it up. And
fingers crossed they can end it then, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I think it's going to be a very tight game, and I'd be shocked if it didn't go to penalties again, to be honest. I don't think there's much between the two.
So it's going to be worth the stream money then, yeah?
I'll be watching it.
Are you paying it, or are you going to get one of them special links, mate?
I'm working on it. I'm working on Lawrence and one of those special links, but yeah, we'll see. It'll be a good game.
Definitely.
So today's guest is the host of Location Football, the host of DAZN National League, and ex-Soccer AM star Curly Kirtland. How you doing?
I'm very well. Thank you for that intro. Very nice.
No problem. Everyone's excited to. We've got a group chat of around 100 social admins for non-league clubs from steps 1 all the way down to junior league. So yeah, we dropped the news that you're coming on, so everyone's excited.
Oh, nice.
Just for those listeners who may not know your background, know who you are, can you give us a bit of history about yourself?
Yeah, no worries. So as you said in that intro there, my first big job in football in media was working at Soccer AM, which I got when I was 19. Like most people at my age back then, that was the go-to on a Saturday morning. Everyone used to get up, have a bit of breakfast, and then stick Soccer AM on for what was 3 hours back then. It was 9 till 12 with Tim and Helen and that. So I was an avid watcher with my brother every Saturday, and then I needed to go and find some work. I played football at semi-pro, non-league level, but it was never going to materialize into an actual proper job, I guess. So, I applied to do some work experience. I just called up after a show, actually, and emailed in to Sky. There was no social media or anything back then. So it was literally try and get on the internet, find a contact number or an email, send that. And then, lo and behold, I got an email back the same day, and then came in for work experience and was there. And then I've been there for a week, loved it with Tim and Helen. Ended up going on Noel Gallagher's birthday party. Like when I was there in the early years, it was mental. But so then I worked for free essentially every Saturday as a runner, helping out where I could, just because I wanted to be there. And then when Tim and Helen decided to leave, it was like front of the queue for whenever the next job sort of came around. And then was there for 16 years, went all the way from a runner to presenting all the social media content. For the last 5 years I was there, and everything in between. So working in football, going presenting, producing items with tubes, going creating skits, being in skits, being on the telly, working behind the scenes, did every single job you could imagine at that establishment, which was class. And like anyone in football, if you're not going to make it as a footballer, back then that was the next best thing. So that's where the majority of a following, if you were, if people have seen me before, I normally get that when I go out. They can pinpoint the face, but not sure where it's from. And then when I normally mention Soccer AM, it's normally, oh, right, yeah, that's it. But more recently now, it's the stuff I do in non-league football as well, with location football, that I set up with a fellow colleague at Soccer AM. Whilst I was there for the last 4 or 5 years of Soccer AM, was building this platform and this channel on the side. Just because as a passion project, a bit like what I presume you guys are doing now, it's you have a passion about non-league and you want to talk about it. You want to be front and center about what I think is the heartbeat of English football. It's you can't beat non-league. So then set that up with my pal. We've been around and we're using our producer heads and what we've learned in sport and stuff, started creating content around it. And then, in the last 18 months, 2 years, I'd say it's probably kicked on a level or two, hence why we're probably having this sort of conversation. And that's how I got my job in DAZN as well. They saw the work that I was doing in the National League and National League South and just generally non-league. And now work alongside Erin McLean as the two faces of the National League for DAZN.
Yeah, I mean, well, that experience speaks for itself, really. Yeah. Going back to Soccer AM, obviously, like you said, probably everyone of an age watched that as a Saturday morning go-to. And I think as any young person wanting to get into media, that was probably the pinnacle of football media, wasn't it, at the weekend? And to be involved in that, especially in the days of Tim and Helen, and then who was on after that, Andy Goldstein, Max Rushton. They're big names now in sports broadcasting. So it must have given you such a good experience and a good grounding of obviously what you're doing now. Yeah,
absolutely. As I said, I learned everything at Sky Sports, and yes, from being a runner in the early days to then producing my first shoot, going up to Manchester City training ground and working with Kevin De Bruyne back in the day, and going to Arsenal, my team who I support in the Premier League, and going there for the first time and chatting, meeting Arsene Wenger, meeting all the players, and then obviously adding into that the show day itself, which people used to joke about and say, all right, I know the show's on the Saturday, so what do you do for the rest of the week? And it's like, well, we make it. That was sort of like a running joke. People just thought we just turned up on a Saturday. But learned everything and took every opportunity I could at Sky to be able to have those skill sets necessary for when the day comes, because it was never going to last forever. It lasted a long time, but I'd had enough. I'd have all the skills I needed to do whatever I chose to do after Soccer AM, and thankfully I was learning everything as I went along at the best place in Sky Sports on the best football show that I believed, and I'm sure there's many around the country that would agree. So it was invaluable, but it was hard. Like, don't get me wrong, it wasn't like we did look like we were having fun, and we were, but there were dark days, maybe not the right word, but there were days that are really tough, like any job, especially in the early years when you're very young. And I used to make the props as well at certain points. That was like the natural progression. Once you become a runner, the first job was props. So all the costumes that you used to make, you had to go and source them, find them. You'd have last minute changes. You'd be panicking on a Friday. Sometimes you would start at like 8 a.m. on the Friday and not finish till 3 a.m. and then be ready to go at 6 a.m. I've slept in props cupboards. I've slept in the green rooms. Like in the early, like you couldn't do it now, but back then, which is like 17 years ago, it was like, that was just a thing. It's like, oh, you're not finished yet? Okay, no worries, keep going and you'll get there. But so thankfully now where I'm at, I don't have to sleep in any props cupboards, or an inflatable crocodile was the one that sticks out the most. But learned so much of every single person, and still close friends with Tubes and a few of the lads that are still there, and regularly chat with them. But like I say, it was the best place to learn your trade, and just being in and around football, which was like what I'm sure all of us growing up absolutely loved, and we'd all have the dream to go and be a footballer. And that, I guess that was the only, and it's not a downside at all, but it was like you'd arrive at these training grounds and you'd be like, this is amazing. Be like, I wish I was a player.
Wish you'd the one being interviewed.
Or just like, this is amazing. Like, we'd always get looked up like canteen food, and you'd be like, this is amazing. This is amazing place. And there were some funny ones as well. going up to Grimsby once, and they had all that like, and this was only like six years ago. They had all the old school rusty weights, like proper old school, but full of character, full of brilliant people, and never really come across any clubs that were ever negative towards us, because they always knew that we were just there to like not have fun as such, but we weren't asking the hard-hitting questions like
of course,
the managers get through Sky Sports News. And that was the beauty of Soccer AM. Everywhere you went, people were very welcoming. So yeah, it was I haven't got a bad word to say about that show. It gave me everything I ever wanted in life at that point in my young career, and I wouldn't be where I am today doing what I do now as a job, which I'm very lucky to do, without what I learned. And there's so many people, you know, you mentioned there, Tim Mahellam, then there was Sheephead Fenners in the early days, Trevor Geist, God rest his soul, Dave Morgan, Steve Sutcliffe, Nutbeam Rocket, there was Lavers, Stu Wakeford, Jamie Allen. We all became a family, and we all probably helped each other out in more ways than one. And it wasn't just a work relationship, you know. And that was the thing with Soccer AM. It was like a football changing room. So if you're going through a bad thing with something back home with your missus or just life, you would always have that team unity. And that's the one thing I miss mainly about being freelance now and being sort of on my own. But yeah, great people to work with.
Yeah, that kind of I guess that kind of culture and togetherness probably made the show what it is as well, because that really did come across on screen for people watching. I think that's why people got so engaged with it, because it was kind of interactive in a way, even though you weren't there, because you had the fans, you had the audience, obviously participation, and interviews. It was just it kind of portrayed it on the screen, which was great.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of it. When people came down to the studio to watch the show, in the end, we would end up having about 80 to 100 people week in, week out. Guest list was full, and people just came down and absolutely loved it. And you fed off that. I fed off that energy when I was doing Facebook Lives before the show. So I would do something before the show, like a Facebook Live little game outside, just to get the crowd, sort of like a warm-up act. But we'd obviously put it on when social media became very prominent. We'd put a Facebook Live out and get various different hits of views on that, which was amazing for me as well, part of my development and growth. And then people would come down and have the best day out. They'd have the absolute, especially if the sun's shining. And what we used to do back in the day was that we'd have the fans, everyone would come in, and then we'd all go over to the local Grasshoppers rugby club for a drink after the show. And everyone's welcome. It's like, yeah, come over. This is what we do. And everyone would chat for a bit, chat football, and everyone would go their own way. And we'd have our end of season parties there and stuff like that. So yeah, and what you were saying there, it comes across on screen like, oh, you guys look like you're having the best time. And that's what people used to say when they'd come and watch the show live and see how we'd all interact behind the cameras and do stuff. So yeah, it was a very family feel show on and off screen.
Yeah. Do you think, obviously you said about the social media that it then came in, you had to do like the lives before the show, sorry. Do you think that maybe the social media side maybe aided, I wouldn't say it's decline, because it was still very, very good, but I don't know, the times were getting cut and was it a natural progression, or do you think that maybe played a role in it, the social media age?
I don't think it played a role in it, because it was just something that was going with the times. It's obviously very more at the forefront now, but we just had to adapt with things. And it was just more like, not sure. No, it didn't really, because like I said, the things that I was producing and being a part of and what I was creating, because what was fortunate for me is that I was coming through that age of understanding it all, and I was doing social media content for Soccer AM before it became really like, right, this is what's the angles, Sky going down, like you see with Saturday Social and all that sort of stuff now. I was already doing it for Soccer AM for the last 5, 6, 7 years, or however long it sort of started. And I wouldn't say it certainly didn't, like you say, decline is not the right word. I think it just made it made it more popular on social in terms of people will see more clips, and you'd be inundated with top bins in the car park and all this that would get millions and millions of views. I would get influencers to come down and do the Facebook lives. We generate millions and millions of views and loads of things. But then obviously with that, you then get more people watching it, and then more people online who just want to say comments for the sake of making comments. I never really got big backlash for anything that I did, but there were obviously times during it where people would say certain things, trolls online. But that was just that was just the nature of Soccer AM. I don't actually think it was the things that we were doing that were annoying people. It was more just like, who do they think they are? They're not funny. And it's just pathetic. So no, I wouldn't say so. It enhanced the show obviously to a different demographic. As the times moved, I'd probably say it's more that you say the average Soccer AM viewer back in the day wasn't on YouTube. He wasn't on that. It was watching the football, having a bacon sandwich, then going to the football with his old man, or they were like, but times changed and we had to go with it. But yeah, certainly don't think it was any reason to why the show sort of ended.
No, it was just interesting to understand. That was all, because obviously they're cutting the times down and stuff. I've got two questions. Who was the best guest and who was the most difficult guest? Because obviously you had the likes of the Gallaghers on there, who always seem to might have had a couple before they were on the show.
Yeah. Well, again, it's a question that people ask me quite a bit, and I always tend to not go down the football route, because when you as a football guest, once, when I first started, when I saw Michael Owen for the first time, I was like, oh my God, that's Michael Owen. John Terry, Frank Lampard, Rio Ferdinand. I was like, oh my God. And then after a period of time, it's not an arrogant thing. When you work with these people and you see them every week, you see a different face, that it all sort of just becomes the norm in a weird way. Oh, right, cool. Who we got on? You're going to go to Barcelona, do a shoot with Rivaldo and Deco. Cool. Wicked. With Jimmy Bullard and Fenners. It's wicked. That's deep down, the inside kid in me.
Dream.
I'm producing a shoot with Rivaldo and Deco. This is madness. But we had some big guests. I was well into my wrestling back in the day. Loved WWE, and we've had The Rock. We had Dwayne The Rock Johnson on before. Well, he was still Dwayne The Rock Johnson, but if you look where he is now, but he was still huge. He was still The Rock. So The Rock came on. I was pretty starstruck with him, and Stone Cold Steve Austin. I'm pretty sure Stone Cold. I know Mick Foley came on as well, and I've got a feeling Stone Cold Steve Austin came on. But yeah, The Rock was just it was called the baddest show ever, in terms of we had I think Danny Dyer was up. Danny Dyer, Tamir Hassan, The Rock, and someone else.
Weird combination, isn't it?
Yeah, it was wild. It was deemed Soccer M's baddest ever show, and that was cool. That was cool. But like I say, I did some really cool stuff, with Noel Gallagher, being invited to Noel Gallagher's birthday party, through a loophole, by the way. It wasn't he personally invited me. I think it was because I was working on the show for free. Everyone was like, no, we're going to Noel's 40th. Do you want to come? I was like, yeah.
Of course.
So that was a cool question. That.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. So that was I did that. But difficult guests, we didn't really have any. Well, there was some times where some guests would do some funny things. Mel B came on once and wanted to leave halfway through the show to go and get some chicken from a chicken shop, and did, and left with about 20 minutes to go. That happened. That was quite funny. That wasn't that was just she wanted some chickens, and she was like, right, I'm going to go. I feel like I've done enough, so it's nice. The funniest one, which is going back, people drinking, not that we were an advocate of that, but some of these superstar rock stars you can't help. Pete Doherty, when he came on once, and it's one of the funniest but most chaotic things I've ever done. We had the Johnston Paint Trophy in, which looked a bit like the Europa League. It was this big vase thing, and it was the final or something. And Pete Doherty came on with Carl Barat, and they were in their little camper van out the front for ages, and it was just you just knew they were just being rock stars. So you were that was pretty cool. And then they came in, and they, in between ad breaks, they would try and go out for a cigarette. Pete Doherty started smoking out the back, and then we were like, "No, you got to get in." Then he put his fag out in the trophy, and he just dropped it. He just dropped it in the Johnston Paint Trophy. And he was singing songs. I mean, if you Google or YouTube Pete Doherty Soccer AM when he starts singing about Charlie Austin. There's a funny song there because he jumped on the sofa and did like a praying mantis as a goal celebration, but it looked completely bizarre. But which probably was more frowned upon at that time now. But like back in the old soccer days, that was just like part and part. That was just been like rock and roll, and that's those little bits you do miss. And that going back to what you're saying about social media, like that, the time it wasn't necessarily just social media; it was the times had changed. Soccerettes and all that sort of stuff.
I used to love it. The dance offs as well.
The dance offs were good. Yeah, they were class. So they're but at that time, all that stuff chatting about, you know, what they were doing, some of the stuff you see now, it was absolutely fine, and it was just part of the norm, and no one was ever there because they didn't want to be there in terms of like soccerettes or guests or anything. Everyone wanted to be there because it was so much fun. But yeah, Pete,
shift, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, but it was good times, a lot of good times.
Yeah, no, obviously, I think everyone misses it, and I think I stand for everyone saying that. Obviously, yourself as well. But so on to location football. Where did that idea come about?
During COVID, me and my mate Scott Lavelle, who runs Social Ball Media with a couple of his mates, who they are absolutely smashing it. They run Stephen Hendry's Q-Tips. They run Chris Eubank Senior's Chris Eubank YouTube channel and Stephen Bunting. That he didn't back there, but they have acquired all that in the last three years. So me and him always been really good mates, close mates. Both have wanted to create something in the YouTube space. Didn't really know what it was. And then during COVID, had multiple Zoom chats with each other just to chat about whatever, see what we come up with. And then both quickly realised, and we knew it anyway, that we both had a big passion for non-league football. Obviously, my experience with it was very much when I was a lot younger, when I had the time to be able to go to a lot of games on a Saturday. I used to be an avid Bishop Stortford fan who were in they've been in multiple different divisions in terms of the National League South, National League North. Now they were Isthmian Prem at one point. They won that, and now I think they're the one that Royston that way in. They got shafted big time.
They're in the National League North. It killed them, didn't it?
They've had that a couple of times. But yeah, I used to go home when I was like 14, 15, 16, coming out of that. And then like when I got my job, I couldn't go to the games as much. Always keep an eye out and working in football. But we both had a passion for non-league, and he's a Hemel Hempstead fan who had a miraculous end to their season, considering how poor it started. But we know Lee Allison as well does a fantastic job there, and he had a great job as well at Hendon, wasn't he? So so we both had this passion for non-league, and we were just like, right, what can we do in the non-league space that could be quite fun and could be quite interesting? And at that time, we were still we're still relatively young now in terms of age, but when we started it, maybe like early 30s. So it was. And I still very much with a soccer and mind in head we just started creating content at non-league grounds when there was no football. Sort of come up with the name. I come up with the name just because it was like football. We're going to go to loads of different locations. It's football, location football, and that came pretty quick, and we're quite happy with that. But yeah, then over the last, it's just been a long project that was just like we didn't really know what it was going to look like. Whilst we were doing it, we were just going to games, but also like there's going to games and filming content. And then it's like, well, yeah, but if you want to be successful in that YouTube space, you need more than just, I'm going to turn up to this game and just film whatever we can film and just see what we can get. And for the first year and a half, we were just making content. We didn't really care about strategy. We didn't care about how it's going to, how far it went. We weren't bothered about making loads of money on it. None of that. That was never our goal. It was, we want to create cool content in non-league that people can enjoy. And we did that for the first 2 years, and people loved it. People enjoyed it. And then we just changed the format of it all in terms of made it more like specific about people within clubs or specific clubs maybe that have maybe had a few problems and now turning it around, or we've got big names playing in non-league, which there's plenty of. Yeah. And then we had like a couple of videos that just went completely through the roof. And that was the kickstart that we needed to sort of get the channel moving in the right direction. We always knew that our content was good, but then we just couldn't get enough eyeballs on it. And we had like 5,000 subscribers for like ages. And it was really, I'm sure you're aware when you start something new, you're like, oh, I just want to when's it going to be my turn to get a boost or something like that? And then we went to film with Harry Hugo at Farnham Town, who obviously is doing an incredible job there as chairman. He raises a lot of eyebrows through some football fans because they think they're just pumping loads of money at him. But if you talk to him, he's a very successful entrepreneur and what he's achieved in his life. So he knows what he's doing. And then we did a video there about him and about his club. But whilst I was there, I learned about Pat Nash. I don't know if you know about Pat Nash, the goalkeeper at Farnham. Yeah, was at Everton, turned down the contract extension at Everton because they wouldn't let him go and play non-league football for first team experience. So effectively, he rejected Everton. And I was just there, and I thought, and Jono, the manager, told me about him, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So I just got a few shots of him warming up, saving the balls, just some B-roll stuff that we call, and then made this YouTube short of non-league goalkeeper rejects Everton. Told the story. I literally went over to my local park, filmed me relaying the words of the story, and then it absolutely flew and went mad. And to the day, it still runs, and he's picking up views. And I think in the end, it's on about 8 million now of a goalkeeper rejecting that. So that was the kickstart that got pushed our channel out there and got loads of people looking at it. And then once they were going through the catalogue of content that was there, they were like, this is really cool stuff, really like this, really like this. And then the video with Harry Hugo did really well as well for a long form. That was our first big long form video that had success, and it's over 130,000 views now, which is amazing in non-league.
For a long form as well,
yeah. And then I did the video after that. I went and found a team at the bottom. Actually, I was approached by a team at the bottom of the English pyramid, like a Saturday team that Sunday league team essentially, but it's Saturday football. So it was like step 9 or 11, somewhere low. It was basically park football, and they wanted me to play in a game, and I wasn't really sure about it. I was like, I don't really want to make it about me. It's not really what I do, but we'll film it as a test and just see how it goes. Again, but we made the focal point about these group of players that have got together. The chairman, it's his first club. He was cool. He was a fun guy. He was telling us about how difficult it is to set up a team. He wanted to do the same thing after COVID. That's what he wanted to do, put back into the community. Anyway, I made this video. I did play the last 5-10 minutes or whatever it was, told all the story, and it's still our best long form video, and it hit over 1 million views. I'm just going to try and look at it now and see what it's on, because it's one of those ones that once it just keeps going, it just goes, and that's the beauty of like social media and what I love about it. Where is it? 1.1 million views, and it was just, and then that again really put some injection into the channel, and then we changed the format to more stick down the route of what we did with Harry Hugo, which was more sort of documentary sort of style, but with a bit of fun and some cool stuff in it. Like we know how to produce stuff, and then it's just carried on rising. We hit 30,000 subscribers a couple of weeks ago, and that was my goal towards the end. I didn't know whether we'd reach it, but we had a video that went pretty nuts the other week. I've just come off back of a mate's stag do, but prior to that, 2 weeks ago, I was in Croatia for another stag do. And I took my mates, I just took them to a game. Like, we went to watch Dubrovnik play, and it was just a bit of fun, really. Had a few little drinking games to play while we were there. And I thought, you know what, I'll just take my phone and I'll make a story out of it. So I took 21 people I took a stag do to a non-league Croatian game, and that went viral. Like within moments of putting it out, it's done over about 4.5-5 million views across different platforms. So that is the beauty of it. So that just, you don't know when they're going to come, but I didn't plan for it, but
just happens.
It just happens. But there is a little bit of method to the madness, because we do strategize bits and we try and script it to a certain way to keep people engaged. But sometimes you just need to go to a stag do in Croatia and film some bits and come back and go, make this. I've spent out, and the team with Location Foot is just me and my mate. So like this sort of good bit of it, like advice roots back to like where I was at Soccer AM. Is like I learned to edit. I didn't have to learn to edit at Soccer AM, but I did because it might help me in the future. And having been able to do that, me and my mate, I present them all, I edit them all. He does some shorts, he does the strategy side of it as well, and he films it all. So we've got a really good, just the two of us, and we churn out this content. And I believe if we could churn out more videos, obviously we would continue to grow and hopefully one day get to that 100,000 mark to get the silver plaque, because that's what I want now. That's my goal.
Well, I mean, it's going in the right direction.
Yeah,
it just takes that one video to get the eyes on it, and then as long as the content's there, people are going to watch it.
Yeah, and it's like I say, off the back of it now, like when we first started, like say with any of these things, it's never about the money. It was never about, oh, see, they've got loads of, they got this, they got that. Like we just wanted to put more eyeballs on non-league football because we love non-league football, and we've created a channel that has generated millions and millions and millions of views to non-league clubs that that wouldn't get it. And that's why I like our sort of niche, is because, like I say, it's not, you could be inundated with YouTubers who go around and film themselves. I'm at this ground and this is what I'm doing. And that is absolutely fine. But as a 37-year-old now, like that wasn't me 5 years ago. That's not going to be me now. So it's more like, let me use the skills that I've acquired and go and give it a different angle that any football fan would find interesting. The story about Jake Tabor, the Amersham striker, we got him, like he's going to get a move to the EFL. Now, he was already popular before that, but we went and did a video with him and got 1 million views on TikTok, 350,000 YouTube. So everyone knows who he is. And then we did one with the Ramsgate striker as well.
Joe Taylor?
Yeah, Joe Taylor. We did Joe Taylor and then did a video with him, and then he left and went to Hornchurch. But yeah. So there's so many, as you'll know, there's so many amazing characters and people and stories in non-league, but there wasn't anyone being able to get it out to the people, and we've proven that people do love these stories and the way we edit them. So, you know, long may it continue. We owe a lot to people that have supported our channel and the clubs that have let us in as well, and they don't have to. Obviously, it helps if they do, because they do get something out of it for free. And you know, we turn up, we make the video, and sometimes they flop, sometimes they do really well. But normally we do generate a good bit of interest to the football clubs.
That's the thing, like for any club, because there's so many in such like small areas. So, for example, well, not really where I am, because we're in the middle of the sticks where my club is, but like for Dean, up by your way, there's so many clubs in such a small area that any exposure is great for that football club, because there's so many to choose from.
Yeah, I mean, we've got within the space of about 10, 15 miles, about 6 clubs. Do you know what I mean? That play similar level as well. I mean, Baldock and Olsey share the same ground. You've got just up the road, you've got Potton, Biggleswade have got 4 clubs in one town. Like it's crazy how many teams there are to try and fill 18, not 20-man squad sort of thing.
Yeah, it's not just the squads, but like the supporters as well. If they've got loads of games on, how do you differentiate yourself between that and your other local clubs? You know what I mean? So obviously location football, when you're doing those videos, it puts a spotlight on that club, which is great for them. Like you said, whether it flops or not, the attention's there, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, you're still going to generate views about it. And that is why, again, like we went and tried to pinpoint clubs that have got maybe, like in the beginning, we would go to any game. We just pick a game that was on and go, oh, they're playing them, let's make a video. But now we would never shirk away from going to a specific club. But obviously the way it's grown now, it is a business. It is a small business, and I never thought it would. It's a partnership with my mate. We're registered. We've partnered with the Premier League. We've done things with the FA through all the work we've done. So it's amazing. It's amazing. But we do now look for, like you say, you know, you can't all have Jake Tabors and Joe Taylors at every club, but what's like a little unique story that is really interesting? And every club's got their own story. And there was, we once had this lad that did this, who's now gone on to, like Jared Bowen, who played in non-league and for Hereford and all that, who've gone up. We did one at Newcastle Blue Star recently with Michael Ndewene. Michael Ndewene was playing on the bench in the Champions League against PSG for Newcastle, and now is playing step 5. But he is the most switched on, level-headed 21-year-old I've ever met, who, having spoke to him, you want nothing but the best for him to go and be back where he was, because he was such a genuine person. And then you add that into the Football Club of Newcastle Blue Star, that it is like, oh, that's a win-win. Like, it's brilliant. We've got an individual story, and then we can tell the story of the club within that to make like a really good video. So it's a bit of both how we juggle it about. But we don't, unless something like a Farsley Celtic, where it's gone, the club, like the story is the club and like what has happened. Obviously now they've been relegated 3 divisions or whatever it is. They're going to be step 4, is it, or step 5? I can't even remember. But so that's a story that I'd like to cover and try and shine some light on in a positive way. But it's now in the off season. Now it's about looking out for these stories, making some connections with clubs, and just planning again for the new season.
Yeah, we say about Farsley, you've got loads of examples, the likes of Bury, who got promotion from Step 5 this season. Macclesfield are back in the National League North.
Yeah.
Who else have you got? Obviously, not non-league anymore, but AFC Wimbledon today won promotion into League One, and their journey's been incredible. So it just goes to prove that, because obviously they've got that big support still, they're going the people won't leave the club who support them. So hopefully they rise back up like the likes of Bury and Macclesfield have done. So I mean, like I said, the off season it's tough, but you do have these unique stories. I mean, there's managerial changes. There's, like you said about Bishop Stortford right at the beginning, Bedford now obviously in the National League North, Merthyr now in the National League North. How are they going to fare with player recruitment? Because that is a big commitment for players in that area for the travel. So it is those stories. And I think finding a niche is how, like you said, location football does bring people in, because it's a narrative, it's a story that people buy into. Yeah.
And that was always our sort of USP. It was like, I love going to games. I love watching games. I love telling the stories of that. I don't like, like I say, I don't like me being the focal point. I don't care how do I word this correctly? If I don't care like what my experience like in terms of me doing this, how can I sell it to people? And that's you have with YouTube. This is what YouTube. You have to be truly organic. You have to truly enjoy what you do.
Yeah.
To make it authentic and thing. If I hated going to football games, if I didn't like editing videos and spending hours upon hours, and sometimes, like I say, it's hours upon hours to not get the money or the reward that you're looking for in terms of now being a business, then there's no point in me doing it. But I absolutely love going there. I absolutely love traveling to different games. I love being able to call it a job in order to do it, and I love being there talking to these people. I'm interested in Sam Merson's wonder goal that he scored and his story with his dad, Michael Ndwini, Jake Tabor, Joe Taylor. I want to be able to go, oh yeah, see that lad there? Oh, Jake Tabor, yeah. I did a TikTok with him and made a video about him, and now he's playing in, let's say he gets a League One move, or he gets League Two, or he becomes a professional footballer. It's like, not that he's done all the hard work, don't get me wrong, but like I've helped in terms of
shone that light
name out there again. And he was inundated. He messaged me and went, mate, I've been inundated with offers since our first video. And I did another one piggyback with Joe Taylor, and the two of them, it went mad. And that's what I can do. Brilliant. But I have to enjoy it. And the day I don't enjoy traveling to all these places, then I'd stop. But I don't. I love it. And that's what we want to come through on camera. And that's why I say it's less about my day out. It's not about my day out. I'm just there to ask the questions and meet some people and speak to the players and have a bit of fun and banter with the teammates who don't get any exposure. So it works really well, and it helps that my mate's a really good cameraman, and we've got a good bond, and we both have the same passion, and and it's not easy, YouTube, and we've still not cracked it. Do you know what I mean? We're still looking to grow. We still want to get, it takes a long time to eventually get to where we want to get to. We're on the right path. Don't get me wrong. We've got the slow and steady trajectory. We're not looking for that quick bang, and then the drop off. We want it to be consistent and people to come on the journey with us, which is why I love our Location Football subscribers, because now we've got 30,000 of them. It feels like they're on we see the same people commenting, we see the same people getting involved, and that's a beautiful thing to have, is that they're not just stopping by and then jumping off. They're like, oh no, I like this journey, or where they're going to go next, and who they're going to speak to. And that's the best, the most rewarding thing about YouTube, is that people enjoy the content that we're making, and they come back to watch it week in, week out, which is amazing.
I think it's essential to grow organically, because, like you said, you don't want someone on that ride for, I don't know, a month or two. You get loads and loads of big hits on the videos, and then it plateaus again, because it's the sustainability. It's like, this might be a bit cheesy, but it relates to non-league clubs as a whole. The sustainability is huge for everything, and to have that, to people to come on the journey and be, like we said with soccer, and feel like kind of you're there when you're watching it. I think that's so important.
No, absolutely. And I couldn't agree more of you. We want people to come and join the ride and stick around. Like I say, the beauty of YouTube is they don't cost anyone anything, you know, and if we can make a few quid off it now because it's a business, then that pays for our, you know, we've been able to do, when we did start earning a little bit of money from it, we're like, brilliant, that means we can pay to go to watch Guernsey fly. Like, in the beginning, it was like whatever we sort of earned, we put in a pot, but we used to pay for our own travel and sort things out. We just bought ourselves a new camera, which I never thought we'd be able to do. So it's like we use it. And if at the end of it, and if it all comes to an end in 5 years' time or 10 years, whatever happens, we'll go, we've done some pretty cool stuff. I've done some pretty, and I can look back at it all on YouTube and go, I've contributed to non-league football and the lower levels of football, and given a little bit back to the game that gave me everything in terms of a media career, and that's something that will mean a lot more to me than going viral for 10 minutes and then everyone going, "Oh, that was cool," but I'm not really bothered about it.
We want 5 minutes of fame, and then
and we were never really after that. We were just after to join and enjoy those people that like non-league football. We want to give you a different perspective of it, having what we learned at Soccer over the years, have a bit of fun with it, and then see where it takes us. So it's surpassed all expectations at the minute, but very much enjoying the journey and look forward to it hopefully continuing.
Well, no, it's a brilliant series. But what do you specifically love about non-league? Why non-league when you probably could have gone into like the professional game? Why highlight that?
Because non-league for me is all about the people, the community, the fans, the experience you get as well when you go to non-league. And I can only go off mine when I went to go and watch Bishop Stortford in the early days, is that you felt very much a part of the football club. And this fan groups that we had, we'd always used to, at Woodside Park, we'd always be behind the goal, as you always are. Whichever way your team is shooting, you go behind that goal. You give the goalkeeper a little bit of stick. I was hanging around with my teenage mates at the time. We were getting involved with the singing and the songs. You get to know the players. You get to build relationships with the players. And also, like back now is that I appreciate good football. And even if at the time, I think Stortford were like Ryman Prem. And it was never like glorious football. And I'm going back like almost 20 years. It's like 18 years since I started going, when I first started going. But now the level of football in non-league, like National League, let's have it right, is League 3.
Yeah, it's a professional league, isn't it? Really?
It's a professional league. Like one or two clubs, maybe not full-time. I think it was Braintree and maybe a couple of others. Maidenhead weren't full hybrid working now. They're basically still full-time. National League North and South is not far off it. There's plenty of full-time teams in there in both divisions. Hence why the National League South was arguably the best run into a championship you'll ever see. But the fans, the people, the community, that's what I love, and that's what I enjoyed going to when I was younger, and that's why I want to put it back. I'm very fortunate that I've been able to be in the top tier of the game through media and working in it, but it just like, and it sounds like when you worked on Soccer for so long, 16 years, and all the other boys will say the same thing. We used to work so hard, and we were constantly watching Premier League football for skills, showboats, goals of the week. So we'd have to log games. We'd have to log Premier League games or Championship games, League 1, League 2, and you'd be logging there for hours and hours. In the end, like there is there was you're watching too much football in terms of like, so when you come home on a Saturday, like to sit down and then watch more football just for the sake of it became quite difficult. And I know that sounds like, well, that'd be everyone's dream, but like, trust me, and I used to travel 2.5 hours to get to work, by the way, and back. So it was a lot. Anyway, it was a lot. So then you sort of, towards the end, I sort of fell out of love with like the top flight. Like I fell out of love with everything. And like most football fans, the cost of it to get there, how VAR and all that sort of stuff that your generic football fans will all sort of jump on board with. There was nothing better than going to a live game at a stadium for £7, £8, £10, have a nice pint with your mates. I'm not a big drinker, but a burger, chips, whatever. Stand there, watch some good football. Dulwich Hamlet was a brilliant one that we went to multiple times. They get nearly 2,500 at every home game. So just good vibes, good people, and like I say, they're the ones that need the help, not the big money cash machines in the Premier League who are, it's becoming, we saw the VAR with the Villa game recently. You're like, it's just sucking the life out of the game. But counter to that, since having to work day in, day out at the top flight, my love has reignited. I know I did always supported Arsenal. I'd always, want them to do well and watch them and love them and really enjoy the way Arteta plays. But I managed to fall in love with that side of football again in the Premier League because I was now free to go to games. I was able to go to Arsenal away. I went to Arsenal away in the Carabao Cup to Newcastle, and we'd already lost I was at the home leg that we lost 2-0, and the freedom I now have in terms of being freelance, I never could be able to do that during those periods of time. So now I can go to as many non-league games when I juggle the Ipswich stuff and DAZN, but I'm free to go to Tuesday night games, Wednesday games, Saturday games, 2 games in a week maybe. Like I heard you talking before we came on about the Jersey game. I was trying to look for flights to get to Jersey. I was like, that in itself is a story of like how mad that's all unfolded. Yeah, but it's in Jersey and it's like £170 a flight, and I was like, okay, that's not gonna happen. But the freedom now to be able to get to these grounds, and the big word that a lot of clubs at this level is accessibility. The accessibility, one, they let me in to come and film, and they know what I'm doing, but they let me behind the scenes. Managers will let me in team talks if that's what I choose to do, or that's what I put towards them. That's what I'd like to get out of this video at various different levels. But the accessibility and access they give you to showcase their football clubs, the doors are open. And I've been to many Premier League clubs where the doors open a little bit, you peek your head in, and they want it shut pretty quick. You go in, you go out. Non-league isn't like that. And it hasn't been like that with all the DAZN stuff as well that I've been doing in the National League. Like National League clubs want us to come in, want us to showcase their football clubs. I've got a brilliant relationship with Mark White and Dorking Wanderers, who have been fantastic to us over the years, as have many clubs. They'll let us do anything. If I took my boots, Mark would probably give me a game and name me on the bench or something like that.
Give himself a game, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he'd give me a game. But yeah, no, they're fantastic. And the people, like I say, it's the people. Just repeating myself. Repeat the people. The people are what make non-league amazing. And if we can get more fans through the door, through the gates, then the better, because every fan means a lot to these football clubs, and they are proper diehard fans at various different levels, from step 1 all the way down to step 5, step 6.
Well, I think it goes back to what you're saying about the passion for it as well. People are passionate about their club. Like even if you're like a committee member or like the actual chairman, they want to sit down, they want to talk to you about their club and the direction it's going and the history. Whereas I guess at the top level, it is a business now.
Yeah. No, you're right. Absolutely.
And I think that's why the relationship between the club and the fans and the players has to be so tight, because of the passion that everyone shares for that club, or maybe not the club, but like the town as an identity. So like the club I'm involved with, it's a small town, and on a Saturday, the town revolves around the club. And so if the club's doing well, then the town's thriving, because you're bringing people in the economy. Yeah. So I think it's a massive thing that I can only see growing as well. Like we saw from COVID, maybe I haven't looked at stats or anything, but perception anyway, the more people are turning towards non-league now because it is accessible, it's cheaper. You have that connection, and I think it's brilliant. I think it's really good to see.
I agree.
So that leads me to DAZN, because now accessible as well. You're getting National League and National League North and South on the TV at the weekend. So how did that role come about? Did they approach you? Was it just a natural progression?
Mixture of both, really. So I was keeping an eye on who was going to take charge of the National League rights this season. Obviously, it was TNT beforehand, and then I got wind 3 or 4 weeks before the end of the season that wasn't going to happen. And then very last minute, obviously, DAZN took it over, and I think it was literally a couple of days before the first game, so they were trying to figure out what they were going to do with it. I then approached a contact that I had DAZN and was like, "Hey, this is what I do in the National League. It's what I do in non-league football, location football." And they were already aware of what I was doing. They just hadn't got around to speaking to me yet. So then they were like, "Brilliant! It's amazing that you got in touch. We want to chat to you about a couple of roles, what we were thinking, but just bear with us while we navigate getting all these games and all these streams up." So once that had all sort of happened, I sat down with a couple of the guys there at DAZN who wanted myself and Erin to sort of become the face of the National League and be front and center of the broadcast, which was great for me. So we've done a podcast that runs throughout the season. We've done about 18, 19 episodes of that, with the final one coming this week, I think Wednesday. As we record this ahead of the National League playoff final. And then we've done multiple match day presentations with myself, Erin, and a guest, or myself and a guest, where I was recently at York versus Oldham doing the playoff semi-final. I've done Braintree Southend and a few other ones, which is absolutely amazing, which was brand new to me. I hadn't done anything like that before, but I've obviously worked in the live TV environment. And then we do the multi-match live, which was 6 or 7 times this season, which I imagine will increase next year. On those Tuesday night, Wednesday night games, we would bring guests in and we would sort of, it's not so much a watch along, it's more a bit like Soccer Saturday, but just a bit more like constant in the terms of we are constantly talking about the games that are taking place. So we had Sam Collier, who knows his stuff about non-league. Luke Garrard, came on and did one with us. So at one point it was Luke, me, Erin and Sam, and the 3 lads would be fixated on a game, but we'd be chatting about football like we are now whilst it's all happening, but then reacting to the game. So a bit like Soccer Saturday, watch along sort of style. That's been really good fun. They're long broadcasts, can be up to about 2 hours 45. No real breaks in terms of like 5-minute breaks, but like it's a good challenge. Yeah, it was a really good challenge, and something that I was obviously a bit nervous about doing in the beginning, but once you're in it, I've absolutely loved it, and it's been like a natural progression, as you sort of said, one that I didn't necessarily know was going to happen, but one that I'm super grateful for. And the DAZN production team are brilliant, so it's nice to work with the new people again. But it was a perfect fit for everything that I'd done with location football. That was, the goal wasn't necessarily to do that. I didn't really set myself many goals because I don't want to put that much pressure on myself. But after Soccer AM ended and everything else, I was fortunate enough to work with for Ipswich and still do. So I do that. And then this felt like the timing was right, and everything sort of happens for a reason in sort of my eyes in that sense. And all the planets aligned, and the DAZN got in touch. So here we are. First season with them, and hopefully more to come next.
Yeah, I think it's been great as well, because obviously you had the National League TV, didn't you, last year, where you could buy like the packages and you could watch like all the teams, but there was no real production around it. But the production now is brilliant. It is like, it's like watching Sky Sports, isn't it, for Super Sunday or whatever. But to have Erin on as well, a player that started in non-league, went pro, and then went back to non-league, even early 2000s. So I mean, a brilliant player. I remember him at Aldershot. I used to go there as a kid when I couldn't go to Chelsea. Watching him as well, I mean, it's brilliant, and hopefully it does continue. And obviously it is accessible for people to watch, because it is brilliant. And shining the kind of the spotlight on not just the National League, but the South as well, because I watched the multi-game on the last game of the season for the National League South, because obviously that playoff race was
that was crazy.
It really was. But Luke Garrard, by the way, obviously Boreham Wood, he sent them up via the playoffs. He's destined for big things, isn't he?
Yeah. And I'm actually going to film with Luke when they come back for pre-season. I was trying to arrange it ahead of the game against Maidstone, but it sort of just fell through. I think he was just waiting for an okay upstairs, but pre-season, I'm going to go straight into Luke and film a day with him. Because what I liked about him is how he said in his interviews that he relegated the club, and the tagline he said, "I relegated the club," and for me, so from an editorial perspective and a tagline and a thing, like the man that relegated the football club is like a really nice story, and because obviously now it's got the nice how bad did it get? Like, relegation to leaving the club to then 5 months later being back and then winning promotion. It's like that for me deserves its own story. So we'll be doing that at some point in the summer, hopefully. When he gets back.
And the promise of getting them back up, he said as well when he come back, didn't he? He said, "I will get this club back up."
Yeah. I will get back up.
Dream ending.
Yeah. So they're the stories that we'll be looking out for. But he's destined for big things. He's a phenomenal coach, manager, the way he talks about the games. And that's when I sit there, that's why I love what I do, because I don't make out that I'm not someone that's like, oh, I love how they've pressed from the front and they've done this and they've done the guy again and they're all like consolidating. No, I watch football as a fan. I love watching it. I love that level of football. I can spot a good player and I can spot a good passes of play, but I'm not going to pretend and sit there and dissect it all, which is why I can sit in between Aaron McLean and Luke Garrard at times, especially on that night, just listen to what they were saying. And I'm like, this is like a tennis match. I'm like, oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. And that's why it works. And that's why, they have people like Aaron and Luke, and we had Mark White and Phil Brown on a recent broadcast as well. So, the fact that the National League and North and South and below is littered with top talent from players that have been at the bottom, gone to the top and then come back down, or players that are on their journey to becoming Premier League footballers. Alex Scott, that was at Guernsey, and now he's playing in the Premier League with Bournemouth. You always see a young 16, 17-year-old non-league talent getting picked up by Wolves, or the lad that from Eastbourne that went to Middlesbrough. I can't remember what his name is, but one of their star midfielders now in the under-21s at Middlesbrough signed a pro contract. So that's the beauty of the North, South and the National League.
There's loads of, like you said, Wickham were picking up players for fun. Obviously, the main one, Richard Kone, who's had a brilliant season. But they brought in 3 or 4 lads from Needham Market as well. Obviously, mid-season. We said about Jake Table. There's no reason why he can't go onto a football league club. So there's so much talent, like you said, because it's not just like we've had a lot of players on that either made it big but never went through academies. Then you got the academy lads that have had to drop down because it's kind of like, that's all you know if you're in the academy, and then you have to drop down to get that experience. Where I'm finding now the players that play non-league at a young age get their experience are more the ones that are now moving up because they're playing week in, week out. They're playing proper men's football straight from the word go. So no, it's good. So just to wrap up then, where do you see the future of non-league? We're seeing it absolutely, obviously, it's going up and up and up. Social media, players, fans, where do you see it going to in the next, I don't know, 5 years?
Well, hopefully at some point we get 3 up, 3 down, certainly in the National League, because it feels, although I absolutely love the playoffs, the eliminators and everything like that, it doesn't surprise me that we saw York City and Forest Green fall short, having a 2-week layoff to play their games, and York City not to go up on 90 odd points, whatever they got. They were 23 points ahead of Oldham. Not to say that they weren't great playoff finals, and the job that Adam Hinshelwood's done there is unbelievable considering where they were. But I see, 3 up, 3 up, 3 down would be amazing. The top 2 going up, obviously. Then if the playoffs becomes like a regular playoffs that we see in the EFL, then so be it. You'll still get your moments. But I see it going strength to strength. I don't see it slowing down. I feel like this is a real machine that's going to carry on moving. And the more people become aware of it through social media and their own clubs, you see it now with like step 5 clubs finding, even if it's just a young lad out of college that wants to learn how to do media, volunteering at the football clubs to get something up and running. And then you've got the step 1 clubs that are doing weekly productions and stuff like that. I don't see that slowing down. Obviously, I see the content needs to improve, and the people that will just come naturally when people get more experience. But absolutely, every football club should have their own social profile and look to find ways of building that to engage with more people, like you say, with the Farnham Towns, the Eastbourne boroughs, who generate, I know they've got big money behind them as well, but millions and millions of views. And that lad that they got there is the owner's son, who got his phone and he started filming content, and he's just on the go learning. So I see it being a real juggernaut of English football. And we touched on it earlier. The National League is League 3. There's a professionalism in that. The gap. There's no surprise that the teams that come up, Bromley, Chesterfield from last season, solidified themselves quite comfortably as League 2. Chesterfield getting knocked out of the playoffs, and I foresee Barnet having a real good go. There's nothing stopping them with a playoff push at that point, because Dean Brennan, and I was fortunate enough to spend an afternoon with him on a couple of occasions this season. What a guy he is, and his staff. They're quality, absolutely quality. And I think the more quality players that keep coming through and the ones that drop down, like that National League is going to continue to grow. And I think certainly from step 1 down, we're in such a really strong place. I just hope more people can go and watch their teams. And I think we've got a huge National League playoff final between Oldham and Southend, 2 of the most supported clubs in the division. Southend are getting 8,500 at home games, which is more than the majority of the League 2 teams anyway.
Yeah.
Oldham, what a historical football club that is. Great people behind the scenes. Had the pleasure of working with them against York City. Mickey Mellon done a fantastic job. So I'm really looking forward to that game. And then who knows, but we get to do it all again in early August. And
how far away is it?
Well, you blink and it'll be back. And
it's the FA Cup, isn't it? What, less than 2 months away? So all kicks off again. We've only just had the final, and it kicks off again early August. So
crazy, but it's great. And absolutely love non-league football and where it's going. And even if location football plays a small part in the puzzle of getting National League football where it needs to be, and lower league football eyes on that, then that fills me with enough joy and excitement for the foreseeable future.
No, that's brilliant. Like we said at the beginning, this podcast, or what we're doing, kind of grew just out of a group of social media admins last summer. Basically, because we're kind of isolated in the clubs, it was good to get a group, get talking, share ideas. There's been loads and loads of content shared over the season. Brilliant. And I think Dean will agree, everyone bounces ideas off each other, and we've all improved our club's profiles. And I think, like what you're saying there, everyone needs it from step 1 all the way down. So totally echo your thoughts. But I really, really appreciate your time this evening. A brilliant conversation with someone we've obviously been messing you for weeks to get on.
We got there in the end. It's been a busy few weeks, but we got there. It's all good.
Wrong time of the season right at the end. But I really appreciate it, and best of luck with location football going forward.
Thank you very much, and the best of luck to you guys as well. Keep doing it.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. Cheers, Curly.
Guys. Thank you. Bye.
Take care. Curly Kirtland there. I mean, Dean, I don't know what I'll say. That was a brilliant conversation about non-league, about Soccer AM, about everything that encapsulates what we and so many other people love about non-league.
Definitely, mate. It's just one of them that, I mean, we've had the conversation for a few weeks now where we were saying, trying to get him on and how excited we've been when we've said it. And it just goes to show that when you watched programs like Soccer AM, it's how he says it's like a family, and that's why non-league is what it is, and that's why a lot of people love non-league, because it's so accessible. You're relatable, and do you know what I mean? Like everything he said, you feel that you're a part of the journey as well because you're involved in it. But no, mate, such a great man, and knowledge as well. Do you know what I mean? Doing it for free, and now look where he's got to.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I would urge anyone, if they haven't watched Location Football series, to literally go all the way to the back, do the back catalogue, because it's brilliant. You'll see the journey he was talking about, not of just, I guess, Location Football itself, but the players and the people as well. Because like I said, Jake, we've had on a few times. He's been on there a few times, and look at the exposure he's now got playing these trial games. He's getting phone calls left, right, and centre. So, yeah, I mean, what he's doing for non-league is absolutely phenomenal. So, long may it continue.
Definitely, mate, definitely.
Well, I think on that note, we are, done for the season. Oh, I wish we were done for the season. It feels like, it's a long one, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks, like I said. But yeah, done for this episode. I think, it's going to be really, really well received, and we'll see what next week brings.
Definitely, mate. Thank you.
No, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
Right, mate. Right. Well, just, thanks for everyone for listening. Obviously, this is probably one of the best episodes I think I've listened to. Just crazy, mate. Crazy. But yeah.
Yep. So thanks for everyone. Keep liking, sharing, subscribing, and go watch Location Football as well. Take care.